Welcome to the Wednesday, January 29th edition of the Just Baseball Show. We got Arm Layden and I'm Peter Appel, and in this episode, the loaded top 10 MLB third baseman for 2025. We're also going to talk about some newly found rumors per Ken Rosenthal. I also have a question off the top for our guy Aram, and it is all brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Remember to use code JustBaseball for that first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. And if you have been enjoying all this offseason content from us, the best way to support for free is to rate and review 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, or clicking the like button and subscribing on YouTube. And I think a perfect comment to start off our YouTube video is this question: the top 5 pitchers in the year 2030. We're already going to do the top 10 third basemen in the year 2025, but Jack posed the question on Twitter. I made my top 5. Jack made his top 5. We're not going to get into a ton of analysis with this hypothetical question, but I want to ask the prospect guru which of our top 5s he likes better. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So my top 5 pitchers in the year 2030. Number 5, Andrew Painter. Jack is also at number 5, Andrew Painter. I'm sure you like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, I have Jackson Jobe. And number 4, he has Spencer Strider. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with everybody
I
listening.
hope.
Thankfully, Jack is not on the show. I kind of forgot about Spencer Strider when making my list. Is that fair? I'm
No,
sorry.
but also like off the second elbow surgery, and that would be 4 years down the road. I hope. I hope 5 years down the road, really.
Still pretty damn good, though.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
All right. And number 3, I have Yuri Perez. He has Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I like both. I was going down the Yuri rabbit hole yesterday, and like just like refreshing how insane he is. Like
Insane.
sitting 98 with like plus extension, or at least above average extension, just getting tons of ride, sliders gross, changeups gross. He throws strikes despite being 6'7". Like that guy's gonna be unbelievable for a long time. I think Yuri's got to be in there.
He was 20 when he did this. Wasn't 23 or 24. He was 20 years old pitching to a 3.15 ERA with 108 strikeouts in 91 innings.
Yeah,
And then he
he's a
just gets
creature.
hurt. So again, we kind of forgot about him. But it's funny. I remembered Yuri Perez and forgot Spencer Strider. But Strider is 26 years old, but still in 2030, he's probably going to be 30 years old. So I'd still do feel bad. But at number 2, he has Yuri. I have Garrett Crochet.
Ooh, okay. I think Crochet's got to be on that list.
I know Jack didn't have him. Last year, 12.88 strikeouts per nine. Next best with at least 130 innings, Paul Skeens at 11 and a half.
And that's
I'm,
the
th-
number one answer.
I'm saying it right now. I think Garrett Crochet is going to win the Cy Young. Like, we're going to talk later in the offseason about all of our awards, the big betting preview, all of that good stuff. But I am eyeing Garrett Crochet for American League Cy Young. And then, of course, we both have Paul Skeens number 1. So just
Yeah.
to refresh the list for you, to tear apart, tell us who's better. My top 5: Painter, Job, Yuri, Crochet, Skeens. Jack's top 5: Painter, Strider, Yamamoto, Yuri Perez, Paul Skeens. And again, for everybody listening, especially on YouTube, let us know in the comments section below. Top 5 pitchers in the year 2030. So, Aram, whose list do you like a little bit better? And are we
Mm,
forgetting somebody major?
I I don't know. I don't think major. I think so. As much as I think Strider, I don't want to play the injury game because like
Yeah.
that's just you can't do that with pitchers. Like you don't know. So just based on ability and saying they'd still technically be in the tail end of their prime or in their prime, like Strider's ability is just on a different level. So I think you got to have him in there.
Mm,
Crochet though, I think talk about ability on a different level. That guy's throwing freakazoid. So I think both those guys need to be in there.
okay.
So you both omit one on each side there.
So that means because on your top 100, Job is the number 2 prospect overall in baseball. Painter is 11,
Yeah.
9, right around that top 10 mark. We both had Painter. I did put Job. Would you put Job? I mean, you put him at two.
I like said his floor is so freaking high. I,
True.
is he going to be top 5 in 5 years? Like I could see Painter's ceiling's higher.
Hmm.
So, oof, that's why pitching is so hard. Yamamoto also like he might just blossom into this. I mean, he already did in the second half of last year. He could just be better than all of them too. When I think about like top 5 pitcher, it's like you have to have basically 3+ pitches and two like 70 grade pitches. I think when you start looking at some of these prospects, like I love Joe because the command has been it got a little shaky when he came back from injury, but the command is so good, the field of pitch is so good. He's so athletic, he throws hard. But I don't know if he has the like 270s and a 60 and a 60 kind of thing going on for him in terms of pitch grades. And that's why like I feel really good about him being top 10. I don't know if I feel really good about him being top 5 for sure. And that's what makes it so tough. I I think it's crazy to omit Crochet though, given
I
that
agree.
he's gonna be he's still gonna be young. He's gonna just keep building up too. I think Crochet is the most glaring omission, to be honest.
I'm gonna give you a couple more names to make this even harder. Tarek Skubal's gonna be 32 years old in
He
2030.
might still just be throwing that thing, man.
He might be. Roki Sasaki.
He he could yeah, I mean, talent wise. I still think like that's another guy. It's an 80 grade splitter. The fastball when he's healthy is 70 plus grade, but like what's the third pitch? Can you be a top 5 pitcher in baseball with two outlier pitches? The fastball still needs to get there, but let's assume it is. I don't know. It would be really interesting.
I'm gonna give you another name, and obviously you know the name because you made the list and you put me onto this name. Noah Schultz of the White Sox.
Schultz could do it
Dude,
because
he grew. He
he
grew. He's 20 years old and he grew. And you're asking, grew to what, Peter? From 6'9" to 6'10".
yeah.
He looks like the big unit. And I'm reading the write up because when you posted it on October 24th, the final update of the season, since then, I was like, who, what? And then I'm texting Elijah, our White Sox guy, and he's talking about Noah Schultz. And I'm like, holy shit. So I go watch video, blown away. I mean,
He
this
throws
guy's
strikes.
the freak.
He's
Freak.
6'10 and throws strikes. How is that possible? 6'10 lefty from out of high school? You'd think he'd have the biggest command issues in the world. Fills up the zone. He didn't walk anybody. Fastball, he gets ground balls, he gets whiff. The slider is one of the best sliders in the minor leagues. Like he's going to develop, I think, a pretty well-rounded arsenal. It's just all about health for him. That's another guy where it's like I would take Job because Job is. I feel so good that he's going to be a frontline guy for a long time. But if I had to bet on who has the best shot at being one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, as weird as it sounds, I think Schultz might have a better shot at being like a Cy Young candidate for the next 5 years once he gets up.
A loaded list. The baseball's in such a good spot
Oh
when
my
it comes to
gosh, yeah.
pitching. Another name that I wanted to include, Hunter Green of the Reds. He's 25 years old, bona fide ace. He's pitching in a bandbox and still putting up great numbers. The strikeout numbers are absurd.
He
He's going to
made a
continue
leap
to
last
shove
year.
too. Yeah. So there are so many names, but also be sure to go check out Arm's Top 100. When's the next update coming out?
We'll have it probably within the next month. So
Within the
I'm
next month.
excited. We're doing the team top prospect list, like flying through them. And Cubs just came out. We're gonna have Reds out this week as well. And just wrapping up the Centrals. And then I think sometime within the next month, as we'll be almost 2/3 of the way done with all the team top prospect lists, we'll be updating the top 100. And there's a lot of movement. I'm excited about it.
Well, speaking about pitchers, we got a new rumor per Ken Rosenthal. Michael King. Padres have discussed Michael King potentially in trades, and I quote, among the starting pitchers who remain in play. So technically, he is on the trade block, but that's mostly because the Padres are looking to offload some money. They just made their first signing of the offseason, Elias Diaz. That was their first one. They're one of four teams who had not signed a free agent yet. So now they're off the board, but they're looking to offload some money. Potentially, Dylan Cease is more expensive. I would say Dylan Cease has more upside than Michael King, But
Mhm.
still, Michael King has established himself as one of the better starters in baseball. And even, I think, has a late flyer for our conversation about top five pitchers in the year 2030. Why are the Padres doing this? Both are free agents after this season. So might as well cash in, right? Do you have, I obviously the rumor is valid. It's coming from Ken Rosenthal. But do you really think the Padres are going to end up doing it?
It's just like it's so weird to me because I think they should explore and see what's out there and see if there's ways that they can feel like they're upgrading the roster. But the thing for me is once you trade one of those arms, like, do you really feel like you have a chance to compete with the beasts in the West? Like with the Dodgers, of course, and even the Diamondbacks at that point? Like you're going to subtract from your staff while the Diamondbacks add Corbin Burns and get Trey Jameson back healthy and, get Zach Gallen back ready to go 100%. Like I just I know that they've been all in on the last few years and they should be competitive and go. And I understand that there's financial constraints, but it's not like Cease is making $20 million next year or Michael King is making $20 million next year. And I get the prospect hall side of it, but if you're trying to win now, I would rather just eat some of the Araya's money and just dump that if it's really about the money. I understand they want to get a prospect return and all of that, but if you're going to do that, then just tear it down even further. Are you really trying to win next year? I don't really get the 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. Like the team as constructed now could make a run because they've got two pitchers that when they're hot are can match just about anybody, plus Darvish, plus, that's enough. And you can start to piece it together. Otherwise, maybe you move Morejon to the rotation. There's some gaps in the lineup, but you still have enough star power. Like I can talk myself into that. But you take one of those starters out of the equation, it's getting a little harder to talk myself into that. I don't know how you feel.
I'm barely talking myself into the Padres at all as in their current standing, right? We're
Yeah.
looking at a rotation. You're right. Cease King, love it. Absolutely. One of the best top twos in a rotation in Major League Baseball. A 38-year-old Darvish
They're fine three.
is a fine three.
Yeah.
How many innings is he going to throw this year? We'll see.
No.
How many innings is Matt Waldron going to throw this year? How many innings is Randy Vasquez going to throw this year? Like, that's the rest of their rotation. They don't have a mop up duty guy, even like Martin Perez. He's off the board too.
Yeah.
And then you look at the bullpen, right? This is not the same bullpen with Tanner Scott anymore. This is not the same rotation with Blake Snell in it anymore. So why are you trying to get rid of money with that? If you're really trying to clean house, let's find someone for Bogarts. Let's find someone for Machado. Like
Good luck.
exactly. But if we're really trying to clean house here, what I think the Padres should be doing is like this is kind of the last year of the window. It does seem like
Just go for it. Like
just go for it.
you're not going to get like a franchise altering return. You'll get a
No,
good haul for those guys,
definitely.
but is it going to completely move that? You can end up moving those guys at the deadline, and I know it's a rental and it won't be great, but you can move both of them at that point, and you'll get something back. AJ Preller, if there's one thing he's fantastic at, it's at scouting. Maximize your return then and go from there. They can liquidate really. If they're not playing well come June, July, trade Jason Adam as well. You'll get a nice haul for him. Like you can cash in at that point. I don't really get the point of doing it now. I think you might as well give it your best shot with the roster you got.
They might be testing the waters
Yeah.
more so because I do think that Michael King would get them a better return than Dylan Cease would. I know it sounds weird because you probably say Dylan Cease is the better pitcher, but Michael King is much cheaper and he's got a ton of upside too. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw
I mean,
him
the
dealing
numbers,
all we,
he's
we
more
saw him.
consistent if anything.
Yeah. So I could understand. So if someone who, didn't wasn't in on Corbin Burns, doesn't have the money to go get one of these big free agents, maybe isn't interested in paying Nick Pavetta, isn't interested in paying Jack Flaherty, maybe they make the move for the starting pitcher and maybe they overpay for one. That's got to be the only reason that
Well,
Preller is coming out and saying King's available.
Well, and it makes sense from the lens of like you're gonna have to give up a draft pick to sign a Flaherty or a Pavetta. So you look at that as like maybe you're trading at the probably a number 10, 11 prospect in a system because it's gonna be a pretty early comp pick. So some teams may say, well, I'd rather just make a trade for a guy that's way cheaper
And
and give
better.
up, a little bit more prospect capital, but cheaper and better. Like
Yeah.
so that's the tough part is you'd be paying more, it'd be a long-term deal, and you'd still be giving up effectively a number 10, 11 prospect in an average system. So it's worth floating around, but I nothing would surprise me at this point because the Padres are in such a weird spot, but it would be close to surprising me if they moved one of those arms before the season starts.
Yeah, I agree. Padres are in a tough spot. I
I feel
mean,
bad. It's just tough. It's really unfortunate, but also some of it's a little self-inflicted. I'm all for spending, but like the Machado extension, you could I didn't realize how insane those numbers are. Like the extending him even further to what those numbers are is crazy. They're paying Darvish till he's 41. The Bogarts deal, like it was great to get him, but holy crap, that's a long time of commitment. They are paying Cronenworth for 6 more years. It just felt very impulsive, all of these extensions and signings and like it's a lot. It's a lot. And now they're in a spot where they can't even really move these deals.
Preller's a maniac. Look how much he gave up to just get Tanner Scott. Like you guys got legit prospects in the Marlins system for a reliever who
Uh,
then
they
left.
they got a guy that's going to probably slide into the rotation and Adam Masher this year. They have one of their better pitching prospects in Robbie Snelling. They got Graham Pauley, who's already debuted, and you still hope he can get it going again. And Jay Bashirs, who's like a back end top 30 guy. Like that's insane for a couple months of Tanner Scott, who's now pitching for their division rival, anyways.
But also to be nice to the Padres. They made a lot of quote unquote questionable moves and they are investing in players for a very long time. But last year they were the second best team in baseball. Just ask the
Yes.
Dodgers.
No, they gave it a great shot. And like
Yeah.
that's why I'm not it's more just about like how long some of these deals are and these extensions are. It's like we're begging teams to spend. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. They took that and ran.
Yeah.
For sure. But I'll
So
always support that. I will not clown that too hard. It's just like I didn't realize how handcuffed they are with some of these deals until I really dove back into the back end of some of them and it's like, whoo, that's gonna be hard to move.
they had a 2-1 lead over the Dodgers. I mean, if they win that series, they probably win the World Series. And then we're kind of saying, yeah, I mean, they do have to keep paying all these contracts, but who cares? They
It's
won the
easier to
World
do
Series.
that. One wouldn't care, and two, you'd have more money to work with. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the crazy part about it. It's
Yeah.
the butterfly effect from of just one series there.
Think we're ready for our top 10 third baseman. You in?
Let's do it. Let's do
Top
it.
10 third baseman in Major League Baseball. Just a reminder to everybody, you can find the article on justbaseball.com so you can follow along. And you'll also see that we have 6 different people ranking all of these third basemen. Managing editor Ryan Finkelstein, Leo Morgenstern, Eric Truden, and of course, you got myself, Aram, and Jack. We all have different top 10s, so we might have a different guy on a different spot, but we aggregated them all to have one official list. Also, shout out Eric Hosmer, quote tweeted our shortstop list
Yeah,
and
that's sweet.
said it was way better than the shredder. Shout out to you, Eric Hosmer. I
Yeah,
totally
thank you.
agree with you. Great
We
take.
appreciate you. That
Great
was
take by
cool.
Hosmer over there. All right.
Yeah.
So before we get into the honorable mentions and, of course, the top 10, let's take a break. All right. We got 4 honorable mentions before we get into the top 10. And Aram, I'm already upset. I'm already upset. So our honorable mentions: Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays, Royce Lewis of the Minnesota Twins, Nolan Arenado of the St. Louis Cardinals, and Max Muncy of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Get ready, everybody listening. This list is awesome. The fact is that we have Junior Caminero, who could very easily win the Rookie of the Year this year.
Well, they freaking over that he just
Technically,
went over the
yeah.
eligibility. It's so
Oh,
funny, dude. I get replies every day. Rookie of the year. Anytime I tweet about him, I'm like, dude, somehow the
yeah.
Rays exhausted his rookie of the year eligibility. It's crazy. Jack, I stumped the other day too. He's like, no, you're lying. I'm like, no, dude, it's gone. Like they called him up at the end of the year and just put him over the edge. It's very weird. He would have been I picked him rookie of the year back to back years. So it would have been the third year in a row that I would have picked him, which is crazy. But that home run, by the way, in Lidom Championship Game 7. If you didn't see that, go on my Twitter or just anywhere and search Junior Caminero. Absolutely electric. But he is pissing on baseballs heading into spring training. That guy will be in the top 10 for next year. I got no doubts about that.
Yeah, I wanted to rank him high. It's just, I
You got to
mean,
do it.
He's played 43 games, I think, at the big league level, or at least that's what he had last year. 105 WRC plus. Like he showed some flashes of stuff, but
But
it just wasn't at the point where, he was so good so fast that you just have to force him in. I just had him outside the top 10 because a lot of these other guys, this list is loaded and
it's a thing.
everybody's proved it.
If it was a thinner position, I think you could like put him in on just the projection and the excitement going into this year. But there's too many guys that have done it and been doing it at this position to have a unproven almost rookie, there. Which again, though, I fully expect him to be there next season.
Royce Lewis, we all know the story. Everybody who
Be on the field.
listens to baseball podcasts, if you're already listening to a baseball podcast, that means you're probably a ball knower and you know that Royce Lewis never stays on the field. But when he's on the field, he's awesome. But
Yep.
unfortunately, he's not on the field enough to make this list.
Yep. I can't add anything to that. It's just hoping he can stay on the field. There's no questioning the ability
Yeah.
of that guy.
And Nolan Arenado. I know it's like the first time in a decade he hasn't been on a top 10 third base list, but he just narrowly missed out, unfortunately.
Which again, I think is more of a testament to the position because even in a down year last year, like he still was solid. And I think some other positions he's probably at top 10 in WAR, and a lot of other things. But yeah, it's just not quite there compared to some of these other guys.
Yeah. And our last one, which I'm upset about. Why is Max Muncy not on everybody's top 10? For me, he was number 8. Last 2 seasons, let me give you a stat. Last 2 seasons, Max Muncy has a 124 WRC plus and an 823 OPS. Fourth highest among third basemen with at least 800 plate appearances. I know he got hurt last year, but in the 73 games, he put up a 135 WRC plus. That was higher than Rafael Devers. That was higher than everybody on our list outside of Jose Ramirez. Now, I know he's big and clunky. I know he's not a great third baseman defensively. I know that. But there are some guys on this list who are not great third basemen, right? And we want the bat at third base. And I get in trouble sometimes because sometimes I'm like, yeah, the glove is cool, but like, are you hitting? And Max Muncy is one of the best offensive players at this position. I think he is a top 5 offensive player at the position. And in 2023, he hit 36 jacks. He had 15 home runs in 73 games. Like this is still an elite bat. I know he's 34 years old. Has to be on the top 10. What are you guys all smoking? And
I
Jack is nuts. Ranked him 15th.
15.
Jack ranked him below Alec Boehm. What are we talking about,
Yeah,
Jack?
that's where I drew the line actually was Alec Boehm.
And
I
here's
was
the
the
thing.
second highest.
Yes, you were the second highest. You were at 12, so I'm kind of yelling at the wrong person, but still, even you. How was he at 12?
Um, yeah, he was a tough one to be honest, but I did for sure draw the line at Alec Boehm. I was like, there's no way I'm going into next year with Alec Boehm over Max Muncy. Muncy wasn't even that bad defensively
No.
last year. He was fine when he was on the field. Like it wasn't great, as you mentioned, he can be clunky, but it wasn't terrible.
No.
It was a little bit of just, I think for me going into next year, like, does he slow down even a little bit more? Westbrook's probably going to get a little bit better. I would assume so. And then, with some of the other guys ahead that we'll get into, but I really could not justify having him lower than 12. I was pretty surprised by his ranking, to be honest. I 15. And it wasn't just him. Fink had him at 15, Leo had him at 14, and Eric had him at 15, which means that they also ranked, like a Royce Lewis ahead of him, who I know is super talented, but like he's a home run hitting third baseman who is available even less. A Caminero who like hasn't done it yet. I don't
Yeah.
really see that one either. Like, yeah, I'm with you. I think you got really up there. I don't know if I was that bullish, but I do 15 is kind of shocking. And for a guy that has just mashed for years and years now.
I was just looking at the top 10 third base list, and I'm like, all right, like game on the line still too. And for all of next year, I would still take Max Muncy's bat over most of the third basemen on our list. And because he wasn't egregious defensively, I'm like, yeah, I'd still take him number 8.
I mean, 135 WRC plus. I know it was 73 games, but I mean, It's one of the best at the position last year, like you said.
36 home runs the year before. So I'm definitely upset.
Dodgers fans are not going to be happy with that one in the replies. I can already see it.
And they shouldn't be. They shouldn't. They should be upset. They should be
Yeah.
upset right now and direct all complaints to Ryan Finkelstein and Jack McMullen.
And
DM
Jack
them now.
McMullen. Yeah.
DM them now and be like,
And
"What are
Eric
you
Truden.
on?"
I know Eric's watching. Eric, I love you, but
Oh
you can
wait,
send
Eric
him.
had him at 15 too. Include him in there.
Yeah,
Eric,
yeah,
get your DMs ready. Get your
yeah.
DMs ready. Max
Go
Muncy at
after
15
Eric.
is insanity. But we can get into the top 10 because I am saying it's insanity. Our top 10 is loaded. And I asked to take odds this time because on every top 10 list, for whatever reason, I've chosen evens. So I just wanted odds because I haven't had odds. So number 10, the floor is yours.
Yeah, number 10 is Jordan Westberg, Baltimore Orioles, who, I mean, had a really nice season when he was available. Also a little banged up, missed some time, but still put together in 107 games. 264, 312, 481 slash line, 18 homers, 63 driven in, a 125 WRC plus, and a 2.8 F4. What I love about Westberg, too, though, is he hit those 18 jacks in 107 games, and now you bring those walls in left field a little bit now too. I think he could really easily in a full season push close to 30 homers. I mean, he was on pace for about 25 anyways. You bring the wall in, I think he's going to really mash, and he already has. But this is a guy that just keeps getting better and better. I'd like to see him be a little bit more patient. Obviously, walking at a 5% clip isn't great, but when you're putting up a 125 WRC plus, and what really is your second big league season, but really it was his first full season. He only played 68 games in 2023. I mean, it really just was a matter of if he could have played another 30, 40 games instead of getting hurt, you would have seen him easily push closer to that 4 WAR threshold. Again, eclipse the 20 home runs, and you're feeling great about what he can do there. Defensively, I mean, he's a guy that grades out much better in the range side of things and outs above average. DRS is he's kind of average there, but I think it's very clear is a guy that can pick it there. I mean, he's plugged in at shortstop even in emergency and came up as a shortstop. I think the defense is going to continue to get better as well. This is more for me, like we look across the board here in terms of the rankings. He, I think, snuck in at 10 because Leo and Eric had him at 9, and then
Yeah.
the rest of us had him at 11. But that's also why he snuck in, is he's so solid that nobody strayed and had him any lower than 11. And that got him in there. And I get it because you feel so safe about him being your third baseman going into next year.
Definition of solid. Yeah, I had him at 11. Again, I had Max Muncy over our number 9 guy, again, because they've done it for one season and Muncy has just been there. But to talk about Jordan Westberg, like I did rank him 11 for a reason. The guy is awesome. And to your point about Camden Yards, the wall in left field being so hard to get the ball over, Jordan Westberg does a great job of hitting the ball the opposite way. And that's how he's able to even rack up the home runs. But if he played all of his games at Great American Ballpark, do you know how many home runs he would have hit last year?
Would have been like 26.
29.
Whew.
And that's the
Yeah.
difference between these ballparks. It's just crazy. But yeah, Jordan Westberg, he's kind of always going to be one of these guys, in my opinion. I'm sure you share it, where 3 to 4 win player,
Yeah.
20 to 25 jacks, kind of good at everything, just solid. Like
Yep.
just a guy you want on your team.
And he's going to clock in the back end of these top tens, I think, for a while. But the thing is if the defense continues to get better, he could push closer to that 4 or 5 win threshold too. So that wouldn't shock me either. But either way, the floor is so high.
Floor is so high. And this guy, number 9, the ceiling is so high.
Yeah.
Mark Vientos of the New York Mets comes in at number 9. I personally had him at 10. You had him at 9. Jack had him at 9. Ryan was the high guy.
Of course.
Of course, the Mets guy at number 7. Leo had him outside of the top 10 at 11, and Eric Truden had him at number 8. So you look at the stats, and they were gaudy from last year. Slash 266, 322, slugged 516, hit 27 home runs in 111 games with a 133 WRC plus. I also want to say Max Muncy 135, just saying. But let's get back to Mark Vientos for a second, because I think how Mark Vientos vaulted into this conversation is because of how good he was in the postseason.
Yep.
I don't know if he is definitive on everybody's top 10 or 11 if he doesn't go 327, 362, .336 slash line in the playoffs with 5 home runs in 13 games. He set the Mets postseason record with 14 RBIs in a single postseason. I remember that game tying home run in Philly to quiet that crowd. That was awesome. Tons of power. 27 home runs, again, absurd. Put up a 2.9 F war. The reason I had him slightly lower than I think everybody else, I worry about a 30% strikeout rate that he
Yep,
put up
that's
last
valid.
year. I worry about how poorly he did against breaking balls. He hit 169 with a 41% whiff rate. And I think it's just going to be on him to kind of make the adjustment. And that'll be something that we're looking at next year. Can he hit breaking balls better than he did in 2024?
Mhm.
Because if he does, he's going to be a monster.
Yeah,
Because while I'm tearing him down a little bit, do not throw this man a fastball. Do not do it. He slugged 620 against him, hit like 330 against fastballs. So I'm saying that there are adjustments to be made. He is a young player. The defense didn't grade out well, but
it
I think
got
when I'm
better though.
it got better, and when I'm watching him, I don't see a hole over there at third base. Like
No,
I think in a 111 game sample, it's still a decent enough sample, but defensive metrics early on in a guy's career when he's played some first base and third base, like I just expect him to get a little bit better. Expect him to be a league average defender. He's very, very athletic,
he's
but
got a rocket. Yeah,
the power. I mean, he could lead this position in home runs.
yeah.
That's how prolific the power could be.
If you combine the postseason, right, it would be 123 games. He hit 32 homers in
Yeah,
123 games. Like
yeah,
that's insane. It puts him on pace for comfortably over 40 over a full season. I do have the same concerns that you have, though. Like, there's a lot of dependence on hitting the ball and hitting the ball out of the yard when he does make the contact because he does chase a decent bit. Like, he's not going to walk a ton. And there is a fair amount of whiff. So, can you get yours consistently? In the minors, he did. And this was finally him, showing that he could do it in the majors. But this is probably the most volatile guy that we're going to talk about here for me because I think there's a scenario where he's off the list and maybe not even an honorable mention next year. And I think
yeah,
there's a scenario where he's fighting to get into the top five.
yeah.
And that's why I can understand your Muncy case because, again, Muncy is a similar version of this where the defense is not an asset, but
No,
they can get by and it's all about how many home runs they hit. The thing is, Muncy walks, so
yeah.
that helps a lot too. The thing about the defense, though, I feel like Vientos is going to continue to get a little bit better, while Muncy, just naturally as he ages, might get a little bit worse. But you know what you're going to get with Muncy next year. With Vientos, you don't, which can mean it could be a lot better. It could be even better than Muncy, or it could be a little bit worse. So he's the player I'm most excited to see what it's going to look like next year because that postseason really, I think, like you said, vaulted his the expectations around him as well, which sometimes we've learned like can skew your perspective of a player sometimes, and inflate their value a little bit. But it also just can be indicative of how good of a hitter a guy is, and even with the underlying numbers, like against the toughest competition, he unlocks stuff, and that just might be who Vientos is.
And yeah, that probably fired me up a little bit too much, right? Because there are holes in the swing, but at the same time, we talk about a lot of stats. How about nuts plus? How about the
Nuts
thing
plus.
dangling between his legs? Freaking
He's got it.
enormous.
He's
I
got
mean,
it.
a 24, 25-year-old to step up in those type of moments, like in Citizens Bank Park against those pitchers, to do what he did, like, I mean, the moment is never going to scare him, and it's all about him just making those adjustments. And to your point, right, he could be a top five guy. This could be one of the best bats in baseball if he keeps getting to his power and he adjusts against breaking balls. Like he
Yeah.
already has figured out fastballs. So we see how prolific it could be, but it also could be, you know, a ton of strikeouts
Ton of
and him
Ks.
not getting to the power, as much as we might hope. But that gets us into number 8. And before you even say the name, I thought when I was ranking him that I was going to be outlandish. I ranked this guy at number 7, and I thought nobody's going to appreciate this player.
Yeah.
And then I go to the rankings and I'm like, my guy Aram also has him at 7, so he knows what I'm talking about. And everybody else had him within the top 10. So I guess I thought I was going to be really cool ranking this guy high, but we're all here, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's Eugenio Suarez, man. I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've got their guy here, and there was a point in time where they were like potentially kicking the tires on moving him. Good thing they didn't, because I'll get to his second half in a second. But here's the cumulative numbers. 2024 numbers in 158 games, 256, 319, 469 slash line. What do you know? Another season with 30 home runs for him. Drove in 101, 115 WRC plus, and a 3.8 F4. Jack hates him, ranked him 10th.
Hates him.
You and I had him at 7, and then it was 8 from Fink, 8 from Leo, 9 from Eric. I mean, I thought that he had, especially with the second half that he had, because it was a reminder of what he has been for most of the last couple of years, right? Really rough first half, like it was contagious in Arizona. But in the second half, a 153 WRC plus. He slashed 307, 341, 602 in the second half. 668 OPS versus a 942. But it's also just been about the way that this guy has consistently hit for power at the big league level. Let me just take you through the last 4 seasons, which 2 of which were in Seattle, where no one's allowed to hit, apparently. 31 homers in Cincinnati in 2021, 31 homers in Seattle in 2022. Oh no, a little bit of a down year. The second year in Seattle, he only hits 22 home runs and then bounces right back last year with the 30 home runs and the massive second half. Remember, this guy hit 49 home runs in 2019 as well. He's a fine defender. He's not an asset there, but he's not a liability. And I think that it really clicked for him in that second half, where I think you're going to see him carry that into next season and be a masher. The last thing I have to mention with him is, if you're looking at just like total home runs at the third base position, like just what he's been able to accumulate since 2010, there's only 4 third basemen that have hit more home runs than him. It's Manny Machado, 342. It's Nolan Arenado, 341. Evan Longoria, 282. Josh Donaldson, 279. And then Eugenio Suarez, 276. Just ahead of Jose Ramirez at 255. So he's got the 5th most home runs since 2010. I mean, this guy is consistently hit for power. I feel like he's going to hit 30 home runs again next year.
It's going to be one of those guys where it's like we're looking at home run leaderboards in 20 years, and you're like, Eugenio Suarez finished his career with 400 home runs.
He might hit 400.
He's at 276 home runs for his career. He's going to be, or he is 33 years old now. And I totally agree with you. I was like, this is the sneakiest 30 and 100 guy every single year. This is like Jose Abreu playing third. Like,
Yeah.
for Jose, not, Jose Abreu again didn't last quite as long, but it was like guys who it's like, I know he's going to drive in runs. I know he's going to hit for power. I know he's going to play pretty good defense. He's going to be around an 800 OPS. And that's what Eugenio Suarez has done every single year. So
Yep.
why would I have him any lower? The confidence I have in him is immense. I feel like I know what I'm going to get. And it's not, we're going to get a solid season. We're going to get a very good season. We're going to get an above average hitter by WRC plus. We're going to get tons of power. We're going to get tons of RBIs, and we're going to get solid defense. What else do you want? It's not as sexy as some of the other guys where it's like, oh, we're projecting this guy, or, this guy's been such a mainstay, future Hall of Famer. Suarez is right in the middle, right?
Yep.
And that's why him and Muncy, to me, are just kind of those guys where it's like, I know what I'm going to get.
And that can be a very good thing that ends up getting underrated.
You ready for number 7? We'll get straight into it. So I'm a hater of this guy, but at the same time, we have to also understand that this guy is going to a ballpark that fits him very well. Number 7, Isaac Paredes of the Houston Astros. Over the last 2 seasons, among all third basemen, he's 3rd in WRC plus, he's 4th in F4, he's 8th in home runs, he's 7th in OPS. And we know Isaac Paredes' incredible ability to tap into that pull side power. And with the Rays, he was awesome. 132 WRC plus in that half season with the Rays. Of course, he was phenomenal in 2023. He was great in the year prior, and he's still just 25 years old. But then he goes over to the Cubs and puts up an 86 WRC plus. So the hater in me was like, I was right? He goes to a ballpark that doesn't fit him very well, and he struggles. So I'm ready. Where is he going to be in 2025 with Chicago? I don't know if I'm going to put him on my top 10. But then he goes over to Houston, and I see those charts, and I'm like, he's going to hit 30 home runs.
He's going to hit 30 home runs.
So to me, like, I don't really know how to rank him. I don't know, because I'm like, is he ballpark dependent? But then at the same time, while I'm thinking that, That's not fair to say to a 25-year-old. That's just what's happened so far. I know he's good at defense. I know he gets the most out of his skill set. So a part of me is like, you're a ballpark merchant. And another part of me is telling myself to shut the hell up and let the guy develop as he's just 25 years old. But
That's the other thing too.
you have always been a believer. So talk to me about Isak.
He's the most NBA effect player in MLB, I think, right now, where it's like, if by that I mean there's so many players in the NBA where they've been it feels like they've been around for like a decade and they're still 24. Like that's Isak Paredes. Like it feels like he should be 28, but he's still so young. So like that is a guy that I think can learn to balance the two. And I do think that like if he had a full season in Chicago, like that was his first chance since really he was, you know, cutting his teeth at Comerica, but it's really his first time since he's become one of the better hitters in baseball at the position, where he had to get thrown back into a spot where he can't leverage that pull side ability to the degree that he has. So I was really excited to see what a full season would look like and see if there's some adjustments there because he clearly has a great feel for the barrel. But we don't even need to see that now because he's going to a place that might even be even more favorable. He has more room to work with on the pull side where the ball can get out to those Crawford boxes. So like, of course you have to, it's probably one of the only players where you're going to bake it into that degree of like, well, look at where he's playing.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers, man. Like if his home games are in Houston, he's going to hit 30 or close to it. And I feel really good about his chances of hitting 30 or close to it. He plays solid defense at the position. He's not going to punch. He's just in that environment. I got no doubts he's going to be a top 10 performer. He might be closer to a top 5 performer at the position. But it's just absurd how much his value can shoot up in such a perfect environment there. But it makes sense. Look at Bregman as well.
He's still a 3.5 win player last year. And if he played all of his games in Houston last year, 26 home runs. He
Yeah.
was just 19 in the regular season between Tampa and the Chicago Cubs, of course. No, I still think he's a good player, and I think he's going to be great for the Astros. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of this season. Paredes is top 3 or 4 in WAR. He's top 5 in WRC plus, and we're like, we should have ranked him higher, but it did seem ballpark dependent, and then he destroyed that ballpark just like we
Yeah.
all assume he will. So
You can
I
only hit where he
personally,
is.
I ranked him 9. I think I was the low guy. I'm looking at where everybody ranked him. Fink also had him at 9. Leo had him at 7. Eric had him at 7. You had him at 8. And Jack had him at 8. So we were all around the same, but Muncie's still better. I still had
Once
Muncie
he's still
over
ahead.
Muncie. We're still talking about Max Muncie. All right. Number 6, potentially his teammate.
Yeah, which is so weird. It's so weird. Alex Bregman, free agent, but last year with the Astros, 145 games, just does what he does, did what he does, always does, seemingly. 260, 315, 453 slash line, 26 homers, drove in 75, a 118 WRC plus, and a 4.1 F4. He's going to play great defense. He's going to get those pull side bombs, especially with the Crawford boxes. And that's what we've talked about, where it's like, it's another guy, though. Like, if he had signed in Detroit before this episode or before we did these rankings, I don't know if I would have moved the rankings, but like I would have thought because we're basing it on who's going to have the best seasons next year. Like I would probably have bet on a more productive season with Isak Paredes taking
Yeah.
his Crawford boxes, and Bregman going to a place where it's going to be really hard to tap into the power. Across the board for you, me, and Jack, it was 6s, but then you had Leo who had him at 4. Eric at 4, and then Fink also had him at 6 as well. Look, he's not the player that was putting up 8-win seasons like we
Yeah.
saw in 2019 and 2018. I don't think he's that guy, but he still is very comfortably one of the best third basemen in Major League Baseball and a guy that you can just consistently count on to give you pretty much a 4-win season, right? I mean, you look at the last 3 years. You had a little lull in 2021 where he had the two-win season, but he was also hurt. And then you look at 2022, 2023, 2024. 5.4 F4, 4.5 F4, 4.1 F4. 23 home runs, 25 home runs, 26 home runs. Never striking out. The only thing that was a little bit weirder last year was he didn't walk nearly as much as he normally does, almost cut his walk rate in half.
Yeah.
But with that same notion, was still productive. But I do wonder if that's something that, some teams are looking at as they're kind of afraid to give him this long-term deal on the other side of 30 is it was also the first year where his ex-WOBA was ever below 320
Yeah.
since his, 49 game rookie sample. So the batted ball quality took a little bit of a hit as well. He was not quite as patient. Also, that was baked into the ex-WOBA, but it was a great year. Again, another 4-win season. But I am wondering what it looks like in age 31 season now, and how much maybe some of the elbow stuff he was dealing with bothered him and or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting into kind of a new tier here just because Bregman has been on these lists now for so long and
Forever.
deservedly so. And to your point about the walk rate kind of being, included in that ex-WOBA number, it's weird because you're right. It's the lowest ex-WOBA he's had in a season since 2016, his rookie season, while posting a 40.5% hard hit rate, the highest in his career.
Yeah.
Strange. Like weird. When he made contact, it was pretty consistently hard, right? Hard hit rate is looking at all the batted balls that went above 95 miles an hour. So 40% of his batted balls were over 95 miles an hour. But the thing is, it's like he wasn't super productive last year. And another reason why I love Bregman is I've always thought he has some of the best plate discipline of any
Oh
player in
yeah.
baseball. But when you're walking at 7%, I can't really say that anymore. And as he's getting older and potentially going to a ballpark that won't help him as much, I don't know. That's why if I have questions about you, I don't have a single question about anybody in the top five. So that's why he came in at six for me. But again, it's all relative because he's still six. So it's like my questions comparing him against the elite, not
Yeah.
comparing him against the pretty solid because he's better than that.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you mentioned that though. Like I was expecting the quality of contact to be like a little bit worse. Really
No.
not. If anything, it was better. It was just he was more aggressive than he's ever been, and I think also hitter or pitchers were a little bit more aggressive towards him too. But I'm even looking at like hard hit launch angle, right? Like the average launch angle of balls hit 95 plus miles per hour was only 2 degrees lower. It's not that significant. The only thing that stands out to me is his contact point was a lot deeper. So again, like, is he just, a little bit slower at getting that barrel out and getting the ball to the pull side, or just was it a slight dip and a little bit of an off year in that regard, and he'll be right back to his, normal self next year. It'll be interesting to see, but it just the plate discipline has always been something that, as you mentioned, like has been such a mainstay for him, where he's walking more than he strikes out some years. Like that's going to be something that'll be interesting to watch. But I feel very confident that no matter what, you're splitting hairs there. He's going to give you another solid season
Yeah.
next year, as he always does.
He's still a good defender, very rangy. I mean, he was in the 91st percentile now. It's above average with six. He's still a good defender over there at
Oh
third.
yeah,
And in a pinch, like you can play him at short. You can
yeah,
play him
he's
anywhere.
done it.
He
He's done
came
it.
up as a shortstop. And I do think it's funny. And the last thing on Bregman, I'm going to ask you for the 809th time. Where do you think he's going?
I
We did
I,
hear
I
a
think
report
Houston.
after they traded Ryan Presley to get off of some of that money to the Chicago Cubs. It was expected that the 6 year, $156 million contract that the Astros originally offered him was still on the table. Now, I don't really know what that means. Is is it still on? What does still on the table mean? Is he expecting that he should get 200 million? I feel like he should just take that deal.
Yeah, is that they're just saying, hey, it's still there. See if anyone beats it. But like, there's got to be a point here where like Astros brass needs to just and really it's just ownership at that point. Say you have a chance to bring back one of your franchise icons, and you've upgraded the team all over. Oh, spend a little extra, dude. Like that's a guy that again, you put him even if you think he might be slowing down a tad, you put him in your ballpark where he's succeeded. He's not going to slow down nearly as fast. So like just defer some money, dude. Like it's fine. Up the offer another 15, 20 million, meet him in the middle and get this thing done. I can't believe I'm rooting for him to go to the Astros, but like I I said it off the like bat when free agency first started. I felt like Bregman needs the Astros. Astros need Bregman. They don't need him nearly as much now, and that's the leverage they have. But at the same time, like they don't need him on the depth chart technically. But I still think the Houston Astros need Alex Bregman, and I think it's very clear how much Altuve feels like they need him too and wants him. And he's willing to go fucking run around and left. Like, just get it done. I get it done. And I think they will. I do.
And when they do, they might be the best team in the American League.
They're,
I
yeah,
mean, they're still really good, even after trading Kyle Tucker. They're still
they're,
really
they
good.
become a legitimate force.
That infield, Yanner Diaz a catcher, Bregman at third, Pena at short, Paredes at second, Christian Walker at first with
That's
Altuve, and then you got Yordan at DH.
if Paredes plays solid second base, that's a nasty defensive infield. That's power, really, except for Pena,
Everywhere.
but power everywhere. It's scary. That's a
Scary.
scary infield.
All right, before we get to the top five, we're going to take our last break. All right, we're at the top five third baseman in baseball, but also make sure to stay towards the end, not only for our number one overall third baseman, but Arm and I both have a last word. So I got number five coming in from the San Francisco Giants, Matt Chapman. And the calling card is the defense. There are three players with at least 25 defensive runs saved over at third base: Ryan McMahon, Brian Hayes, and Matt Chapman. Defensive runs saved, at least 25. Fourth is Alex Bregman. Do you know how many he has? So three players have at least 25
Since when?
since 2023. So the last two seasons.
12. Like,
11. Yeah,
yeah.
Bregman has 11. So that's the level of defense that Matt Chapman has. But the one thing that Brian Hayes and Ryan McMahon do not have, and that's why they're not on this list, is the bat. Hits the ball so freaking hard and does an excellent job of getting those hard hit balls in the air. One thing that he did, which was a really interesting development for Matt Chapman, he swung more than he did. Like his swing rate was higher than in 2022 and in 2023, but posted the lowest strikeout rate of his career, just 24.4%. Because that was my problem with Matt Chapman for a while is love the defense, hits the ball really hard, but damn it, it just seems like every single time I was watching him strike out. But cutting it down to 24%, I will take that. Now, I ranked him at number five. You and Jack were both a little bit higher at number four. Eric and Leo both came in at six, with Ryan also at five. Again, just the slash line from last year: 247, 328, 463, 27 home runs, 15 stolen bases. Who the hell
Yeah.
are you, Matt Chapman? 121 WRC plus, a 5.5 win season. Matt Chapman, we know him because of the glove. And then he goes over to San Francisco. And I think a lot of us said this when he first signed there, where the bat in Toronto was okay. It's pretty good, right? It was slightly above average, but the calling card again was the defense. And then in a tough park to hit in, crushed baseballs,
Yeah.
cut down the strikeout rate. Like, this is a guy who it's like, I thought I knew who you were, Matt Chapman. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't. And now I'm excited again.
Yeah. I mean, it was a phenomenal year. And it's got to be one of the bigger leaps in contact rate I've seen from a veteran in a long time. Usually that's something you see from a guy like in his age 22 season to 23 or whatever it may be. Chapman saw his contact rate jump by 7%. And a big part of that was the fact that he also has like improved the out of zone contact rate by nearly 12%. It's a guy that already makes good swing decisions, but when you're able to hedge your bad swing decisions by being able to spoil tough pitches or drive a ball that's a couple balls off the plate the other way for a knock. Like it was the most complete version of Matt Chapman as a hitter, I think, that we've seen. So you mentioned he was swinging a little bit more, but he was also getting to a lot more. So it worked. And he still was patient, right? He still ran a 24% chase rate. So I think he kind of figured out how to balance all of the angles here in his offensive game, and he knows he's going to hit the piss out of the ball, like you said. So it's never too late to kind of adjust things and shore things up, get to a new organization. Maybe they tell you to prioritize and focus on different things, and it clearly worked for him. I mean, with the defense that he provides, making that like just even if it was a half step, but I think it was a full step forward offensively was enough to make him a clear cut top five guy for me, and even enough to edge out the next guy. Because just going into next season, I feel good about his improvements and what he did, and the glove's going to be what it is. I think we're going to see another 5-win season from Matt Chapman next year.
I think by the numbers, you guys are right ranking Matt Chapman above our number four guy. But everybody's going to hear the name of our number four guy, and it's like, Like, do we really rank him below? So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Number four is Manny Machado, one of my favorite all-time players, but I
Ah,
had to I had to go with the five spot for him. But Machado still turned in a nice year last year. In 152 games, 275, 325, 472 slash line, 29 home runs, 105 driven in, got 11 bags as well, 122 WRC plus and a 3.6 F4. I do think the defense is going to be better. And now that he's just healthy this year, this is a guy that's been one of the better defenders at the position for his career. And again, like he's dealt with some arm issues, and I think it was affecting him for sure at points. But now he's healthy, fully removed from that. But I think it was affecting him a little bit at the plate too. And even then, again, another really solid season. But I think why we saw the WAR a little bit more suppressed was because of the fact that he was, I think a little bit more banged up and really didn't grade out well defensively for pretty much the first time in his career. Is he slowing down? Maybe a tad, but I don't think he's slowing down like that. I just struggle to believe that Manny Machado, is not going to be able to grade out as an above average defender next year. Remember, he had to start the season even, I think DHing. He only played 100 games at third base, so was DHing for a lot of the year. This is a guy that I do think the defense feeds the offense for him. Where like you talk about some guys that are struggling offensively, they bring that out to the field. I think with Machado, like he goes in, he makes those highlight reel plays. And I think that's like a way to almost unplug from whatever's going on in the box or carry that momentum back out into the box. So it probably was weird for him DHing too. Like that's not something that he was ever used to. He's played more shortstop than he's DH'd in his career. So I do think he can bounce back and have a nice year again next year. And I say bounce back, he had a good year, but I think get closer to hopefully what we saw in 2022, which was a 7-win season from Manny Machado. Again, it's not like he's 35. He'll be 32 for most of the season. But we do have back-to-back years here now where it's a 3.4 F4 and a 3.6 F4. That does come on the heels of a 7-1 and a 152 WRC plus. But it's back-to-back seasons here where he was not a top five player at the position. So I think he gets one more year of benefit of the doubt. And then maybe we do start to wonder if he is slowing down. I don't think he is. I think he's going to come back this year and look closer to that 2022 form as he gets removed from that, elbow issue. But we do have two straight seasons here of 3.5 wins.
is it okay to say that by the numbers, Matt Chapman is better and you and Jack are correct while saying I don't care? Do you know what I mean? Because with
Like,
Manny Machado, it's just, and maybe I'm being a casual right now. Maybe it's just the name value of Manny Machado. Maybe it's still that what I felt was a down year by his standards, even though it has been the last 2 years, where he still was third in WRC plus and OPS at the position. Like
yeah.
it's still just such a scary bat. And it's not like Petco's easy to hit in either, and he still put
No,
up
it's very hard. And
29 jacks.
I know WRC plus accounts for it, but like it can be a pretty frustrating place to hit.
Yeah, and it's just, and then I look at the defensive metrics, and it's like, well, Peter, you see that they're trending in not a great direction. Maybe you should start moving him down. And then I think to myself, I don't care.
He's
Like I
Manny
still, when I
Machado.
watch him, he still looks like the best defender. So I know my eyes are not a good indicator of defense, but when I still watch him and I still think that's still a vacuum, I
That's
don't. I throw
valid.
the numbers out the window, and I'm like, yeah, I'd still rather have Manny Machado. It's still fucking Manny Machado. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like I still need him on my team.
He still hits the crap out of the ball. Like this is the thing is like I could just see him next year, even if the defense doesn't fully, bounce back. This is a guy that's just going to lean into the power more as he ages, and he could still hit 30 to 35, and like it's still going to be great. So that's the thing with him too. I it's really difficult to have him outside of the top five.
Yeah.
But going into next season with Chapman's defense and offensive trends. I could see him overtaking him, but I am totally okay with the Hall of Famer benefit of the doubt to Manny Machado.
And because he's not 35, right? He's 32 still.
Yeah.
So it's like
And again,
these are
had a very clear arm issue that he DH'd for 30 plus games or more than that. I think he DH'd for like 50 games.
yeah.
So like that obviously had to have some sort of effect hitting too.
I got to be perfectly honest. I almost ranked him three. But number three is Austin Riley of the Atlanta Braves. And now you might be surprised to hear him as high as you are as he is on our list. Braves fans already think he's too low, but for everybody else, after a season where he only played 110 games, slash 256, 322, 461, it's fine. 19 home runs is fine. 56 RBIs, whatever. 116 WRC plus 2.4 WAR. All of those are fine. So in a loaded position, why is he number three? And just another reminder, so I ranked him three. Jack ranked him three. You ranked him two. So did Fink. And Leo and Eric were also both at three. So the difference of two versus three. So I want to hear your argument for Austin Riley at number two. And I think I kind of already know it. He started slow. He put up an
Yeah.
OPS below 700 through the first 2 months. That's okay. Some guys start slow occasionally. The next 3 months, 909, 851, 840. All of those are OPS numbers. Then on August 18th, he got hit with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, ending his streak of 3 straight 30 home run seasons and 3 straight seasons with an OPS over 860. He was going for 4 straight. He's still a good defender, but you look at the overall year, he started slow and then he got hurt at the end, which hurt his overall season numbers. But we saw what he looked like during the summer months. It's still the same Austin Riley that's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. So
Yeah.
I could totally understand, you know, having him at number two, but I still want to hear why.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking last year as like a throwaway year for him. And I know that he hasn't done it as long as some of these other guys, but he's done it longer than I think some people may really remember, like off the dome immediately. Even for me, it was like going back and looking at him, I'm like, yeah, this guy was comfortably one of the best at the position, if not the second best at the position for the last 3 years. I mean, if you go from 2021 to 2024, so even including last year's down year, since the start of the 2021 season, there's one player with an F4 over 20. It's actually Jose Ramirez.
We'll talk
But
about
then
him.
Manny Machado at 18.6, then Austin Riley at 18.4. That's a full win ahead of the next guy. And even just beyond the numbers, he's in terms of like just the WAR numbers, he's so strikingly consistent from
Yeah.
a power perspective as well. 33 homers, 38 homers, 37 homers. It was a bizarre year, and I'm glad you laid it out with like just the ways that like when he comes back, he's starting to heat up, and then boom, gets screwed over again. And even then, like the expected stats pointed towards him being unlucky when he was on the field. So he was unlucky health wise, and I think he was unlucky batted ball wise. All side with the last almost 500 games where he has averaged 5.4 F4
Yeah.
and just roll with that. He's turned himself into a decent enough defender at the position as well, where like he actually grades out pretty well. It's just the consistency of the bat for me. Like there's some volatility, like we've talked about at this position. Even a Matt Chapman, it's like which offensive Matt Chapman are you getting? Machado, the last 2 years being rough, and you can try to create a narrative to justify some of the inconsistency. But you don't even really need to dig very deep to understand why Austin Riley struggled last year. And even then, again, it wasn't a disaster year. He was still on pace. If he played, 160 games, he was still on pace for probably like close to a 3.5 win season, or if maybe almost four. But again, every time he came back, he had to get his feet back under him. He started slow, as you mentioned, and he still produced a 116 WRC plus. I would very confidently take the over on a 130 WRC plus next year and a 4.5, 5 F4. That's who he is.
Would you mind getting into number two? Because I want to compare number two and number three because you and I are differing on these. Jack and I
Yeah.
have the same. So just get into number two and then we'll talk about because number one is just definitive.
Yeah, you know who number one is. It's a guy I just mentioned. But
Yeah.
number two is Rafael Devers. And I don't think you can go wrong, especially after what Devers did again last year, right? I mean, the Red Sox were talking about moving off at third. Now they're not. So he's their third baseman. But it's all about the bat with Devers, right? In 2024, we saw that 138 games, 272, 354, 516 slash line, 28 homers, 134 WRC plus, and a 4.1 F4. This dude, talk about hitting the ball hard. Few hit it harder than Devers, and few hit more doubles than this guy, too. It's
Yeah.
homers and doubles. He's going to slug like hell, and he's going to hit pitches that you have no idea how the hell he hit them either.
So here's why I rank Devers at number 2 to Austin Riley at number 3. Because again, we're splitting hairs. Both of these guys are phenomenal young hitters. And maybe it's my slight AL East bias. Watching Devers throughout his career, I feel like I've seen him just destroy my team more than anybody. So maybe that's, a part of the equation here. But I think the real part of the equation is remember when I'm talking about Austin Riley, 3 straight 30 home run seasons, 3 straight years over an 860 OPS. And then it got cut short last year due to injury, but he was on pace to do it. Absolutely, I think. The thing is, Devers did it. Like all of those things, he didn't quite get to 30. He had 28 home runs, but he still had the 870 OPS. The year before, 33 jacks with an 851. The year before that, 27 home runs with an 879. The year before that, 38 home runs with a 890 OPS. So when I look at the bat, I say, all right, Austin Riley can do it, and I expect him to do it, but Devers did it. And that's if we're splitting hairs, they're both young. It's not like Riley's a great defensive third baseman anyway. He's better defender than Devers, but it's not
So am
so
I.
much so where I'm like, oh yeah, I'd definitely rather have Riley if the bat has been more consistent. But you might have an argument. Is Riley that much better of a defender than Devers? Because what I will say is, I was, let me figure out my wording here because I can get hyperbolic. I thought he improved from seasons past where he was a trash can over there at
Yeah,
third. But
2021 was a
yeah,
disaster.
a disaster. I thought he was serviceable. So as long as he's serviceable, that bat is just terrifying.
Do you know what his career DRS is?
It's in the negatives, and it's probably the negatives by a lot. But I don't care. What's his DRS last year? Because I'm
Negative
not going to
nine.
tear him down because he's been improving, Aram. We got to give guys
Negative
credit. They're
nine.
improving. He's getting better.
So it
He's
was
negative.
negative 13 in 2021, negative 6 in 2022, negative 9 in 2023, negative 9 in 2024.
All right.
Outs above average, negative 12 in 2021, negative 2 in 2022, negative 8 in 2023, negative 6 in 2024. The bat, I agree. Like offensively speaking, if I had to take who's going to have like the better slash line for next year, I think Devers would be the safer pick for sure, just because like get like he just it's doubles and homers it's insane what he can do to the baseball, like how hard he hits them. But I do think the defense is like really does weigh him down. And if we're comparing offense and it's like a 5% margin of difference, I agree. Like third base, it's about the bat. But if we're talking about like a 5% difference offensively,
Yeah,
maybe
you're fair.
10% difference offensively, that's where I was like, I'll take the guy who is not a candidate to move off the position.
Yeah, fair.
And but again, like it's not like everybody was siding with Devers ahead of Riley or vice versa. It was pretty split across the board, right? It was Leo, Eric, and you and Jack. Actually, I mean, it really was favoring Devers, if anything. Maybe Fink and I have NL East bias. I don't know. But for me, it was just I think these guys are so close.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't know how much better. Maybe Devers should try thinning up like the lip. If he's not seeing stars at third base, he can make some better plays defensively. But I mean, you can't really go wrong. I think for me, it was just they're so close. There's one clear deficiency. I'm gonna harp on that here, and that's what I did with Devers. But he did have a better season last year, and you can weigh that too.
So I am going to fight back slightly because I'm going to point to a stat. And the reason I say slightly is because I don't actually believe in it really, but it does help my narrative.
Here we
I'm an
go.
honest guy. I'm an honest guy. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm thinking. So, no. But if I were to fight back, because you were using defensive metrics to tear down Devers, which is fair, right? I'm not coming at you for that. Austin Riley, -4 outs above average last year.
Yeah, it
That
wasn't great.
was 18th percentile in Major League Baseball. So I look at that, and again, it's not a great counterpoint because I do think he's a better defender than that. So
Yeah, it's like the really hard part is it's like third base. It should be like 80-20 favoring the offense, or maybe 70-30. Whatever you want to weigh it out. It's a majority to the offense. And then, it's not like Riley's some gold glover. So it's like we're comparing like slightly below average or below average to like really bad defense, but that's only 20% of the equation anyways. And then it's really, really good and really, really good. So it's like, how do you weigh those two things? It's really tough. I think if it was shortstop, I'd be pushing back harder and I'd be like,
Definitely.
dude, he's booting the ball at short. Come on, like you can't pick it. It's third base. And if you say that you believe in Devers bat more because of what he just did last year and because of what he's done in his career, I can say, yeah, well, and that's the majority of the position. So I believe you. It's really weird when you're trying to separate via defense between not great and bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm curious what people think and how much they weigh third base defense. Also, let us know in the comments.
I guess what I'm hanging on to the fact is like I don't think at least last year I the numbers disagree with me. So I don't even know what I'm trying to prove here, but I did think that Devers put together the best defensive season I've seen him. And the numbers
It could
don't
be
agree.
valid. I mean, yeah, it wasn't the worst by the numbers for sure. Not even close.
That's why
The
I
answer was
text.
negative 62 DRS, by the
Oh
way, in his
god,
career.
so bad, so bad. But I'm still, I'm a believer that Devers can upgrade himself to below average defense, not
I,
terrible.
I'm here for that. I mean,
You here for that?
this might have lit a fire under him, this whole positional moving situation. He was talking about like his ranch in the Dominican. He's like, yeah, I can hit out there and whatever. He didn't say I could go play defense out there. I can go get ground balls. Maybe he's doing that a little bit more now. And not to say he wasn't bought in already a little bit, but like when they talk about potentially moving you off of there, that might have lit another fire under him to improve. So we'll see.
And our number one third baseman in Major League Baseball is none other than Jose Ramirez. And I'm going to give you a stat, and this is all you need to know to realize Jose Ramirez's greatness. Jose Ramirez has a higher career WAR than Bryce Harper while playing 200 less games.
Oh crap.
For all those watching on YouTube, let's pack it up. Episode
Yeah, that's
over.
it. That's all we need.
I
I
mean,
mean,
this guy coming off 39 jacks, 41 stolen bases. Since 2023, he is second in doubles to just Freddie Freeman, right? We're talking about doubles and home runs for Devers. Jose Ramirez has more doubles in that span. He's ninth in home runs during that span. He's coming off a year where he put up a 6.5 win season, 118 RBIs, 279, 335, 537. He's the best base runner at the position. He's one of the best power bats at the position. He is the best overall hitter, I think, at the position at this point, and he's one of the best defenders at the position. He's probably a top 10 player overall in Major League Baseball, and we'll be talking about him when he retires. We're going to have to wait 5 years for him to get into the Hall of Fame because this is going to be a guy, I think, who's in the 80 WAR conversation. And we're looking at the best players of this era, and Jose Ramirez is right there.
yep. Yep. Well, here's a crazy stat just to piggyback off of that. Since 2015, which is really his first full season. Remember, he was kind of a late bloomer and not a very highly touted prospect until he was. Um, there's four players who have accumulated more WAR than Jose Ramirez in this is F4. Can you name since 2015 the four players? It's nothing like you know shocking or anything like that, but it is just crazy. I'm only asking you so the people that are listening can also play the game in their head.
Yeah. Trout.
Trout, he's two. Which is
He's
really sad because he would be pacing everybody if it weren't for the Trout's done it. The guy ahead of Trout has played 324 or 304 more games.
all hitters.
I'm only sorry. This is just hitters, but I think it would stand true anyways.
You don't think Kershaw might have more WAR in that
He
span?
might, but let's just for the sake of argument, just hitters.
Just hitters. More than Jose Ramirez? Um,
Number four has only played 993 games, which is crazy.
who's
You
number
should
four?
you should get him. Number three's played 1,375 games. Two is Trout. And number one's
Mookie.
played Mookie's
Mookie.
number one, 1,329 games, 57.9 F4, and a 140 WRC plus.
It's so funny because I'm trying to think about the best players in
It's
baseball.
it's it's pretty much that.
And it's like, well, I would want to say Bryce Harper, but like I know for a fact it isn't
No,
because
he's 11.
um give me the rest of the
Freeman is
list.
7. Altuve is 6. Arenado is 8. Machado is 9.
Huh. Why am I drawing a blank here?
I'm gonna make you pissed. Aaron Judge is 4,
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, since 2015. I mean, the guy's just been accumulating
but it's
more like
crazy.
a
He's played
madman.
way less games. He's
Way
played
less.
400 less games, and he is ahead of Jose Ramirez.
Wow.
And then
So it's
three is Lindor.
Lindor, duh. I'm an
Is the
idiot. Sorry,
defense.
Mets fans.
It's okay. I mean, you could interchange anybody. We're talking about a difference of about 1 to 2 WAR between Altuve and Judge and Lindor. The craziest part though is like that's Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Francisco Lindor, Aaron Judge, Jose Ramirez. That's it.
I think
And
that's an
of
Aaron
that
Judge
group,
stat.
yeah, it is actually that is an Aaron Judge
That's an
stat.
Aaron
In
Judge
less than
stat.
1,000 games,
Yeah.
50 F4 is insane. But he's been a top 5 most valuable hitter if you look at it just from that perspective. But then also, how about the bags? You mentioned the best base runner at the position. He's the only guy in that group with 200 home runs and 200 stolen bases. Like he is a special player. The fact that Mookie, he's just shy 181, but like that's you'd expect Mookie to be the only guy in that group with 200 home runs, 200 stolen bases, or maybe Lindor. But no, it's J Ram.
You know what this is also telling me outside of Aaron Judge? Like, how about the short kings?
Yeah,
Mookie, Altuve, Jose Ramirez is like 5'9". Lindor is not big at all. Just another way to show it, like, yeah, being bigger
shout
is
out short.
better, but doesn't always mean that.
Nope, nope, it does not. Bregman's at 14.
Yeah, another short king. I don't
Another
call them
short
short.
king,
They're still like they're still big and they're still tons
relatively
of
short
muscle.
king.
Yes, relative short king to the rest of Major League Baseball. So shout out Jose Ramirez. That's our
He's
number one third baseman
very,
in
very,
baseball.
very, very good.
Just to recap the list again, and again, you can find this on justbaseball.com. And of course, in the YouTube comments, let us know what you think of the list. Dodger fans, stand up. We need some Max Muncy praise. Number 10, Jordan Westburg of the Baltimore Orioles. Number 9, Mark Vientos of the New York Mets. Number 8, Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Number 7, Isaac Paredes of the Houston Astros. Number 6, Alex Bregman, currently a free agent. Number 5, Matt Chapman of the San Francisco Giants. 4, Manny Machado of the Padres. Number 3, Austin Riley of the Braves. Number 2, Rafael Devers of the Red Sox. And number 1, Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians. Time for the last word.
Yeah, which weirdly we're in sync on it. Both they're both political, but not political, which will never be on the show. But both have to do with presidents, which is funny. And we did not plan that at all.
At all. So my random history fact, I'll just go first. I don't know why I got to this, but I found this stat and I just had to share it. And it's very, very short. In 1936, FDR won the presidency. The Electoral College win over Alfred M. Landon, 523 to 8.
Yeah, that's the craziest. I went down that
That's
rabbit hole not too long ago, and like that is the craziest blowout of all time. I don't even know the campaign, what they were campaigning on. So like, don't be like, well, of course the other guy was. I don't know, but that is
all we're
just
talking
so
about is
jarring.
numbers. We're talking
What
about
state? Do you know
landslides.
what state? Do you know what states? How do you get 8?
Vermont and Maine, he lost those two.
Vermont and Maine.
And it's weird, like those two at the top of the East Coast, like maybe they just didn't fuck with him.
How much time do you think they well, I don't know how they loaded they counted all the votes back then, but like, I'm thinking about that in a modern setting where they call the states one at a time. It's just like within 20 minutes, we're calling the election. It's over.
Watching the news, 523 to 8. And it's
Oh,
so absurd back
the
in
memes, dude.
1936.
Twitter would have been so good back
Oh,
then
Twitter
if
would have been.
if we had that kind of blowout.
Oh, that would have
He
been
he gets
great.
Vermont. It's the like Chris Paul meme, like
Yeah.
Chris Paul with a huge three to cut the lead to 50 points.
All right,
Um,
what's your last word?
So I don't know. Speaking of just going down presidential rabbit holes, you could stump me. I can name way too few presidents. This guy had barely heard of. I didn't even know. John Tyler was the 10th president of the United States. He was
Yeah.
born in 1790. He has 2 grandchildren who are alive.
No.
Yeah.
What?
He
Wait,
has,
he was the president in early 1800s, right?
yes. And he has 2 grandchildren who are alive, or who are currently alive.
Grandchildren, not great grandchildren.
No,
Grandchildren?
grandchildren. Grandchildren.
How does that math
Harrison
even work?
Ruffin Tyler is an American chemical engineer, businessman, and preservationist. He's 96 years old. He's still alive. I,
What did John Tyler have kids at 100?
I think so. So I think
I think so.
that's the craziest part. There's another son, Lion, I believe. So that I just so there's like a a whole like comedy bit I think that like Rogan did. It was like 2 people ago, like these crazy things happened. Literally 2 people ago. Like he was the president, I think, from 1841 to 1845. But
Okay.
yeah, the Washington Post did a whole piece on this. It's the 10th president. Oh, now it's only one. I'm sorry. Last surviving grandson. Just to give you an idea of things that happened in 1790, like in 1790, George Washington gives the first State of the Union address in New York City. Like that's the year that this guy's grandpa was born. George Washington, like my grandpa, like he was telling me about Ebbets Field, and I'm
I
like,
know.
wow, like this guy's grandpa was alive for George Washington giving me State of the Union in New York City. Obviously, he did not meet his grandpa because he must have had his kid when he was 65. So I don't even know. And then his son must have had just followed suit. But if you were trying to like stretch out your lineage as much as possible, this is the most impressive way to ever do it. Like it's actually amazing. That 1790 was the year the first US census was ever conducted. So like somebody who's alive today, his grandpa was part of the first census ever. It breaks my brain. I thought was the craziest thing in the world.
Old Hoss Radborn was throwing underhand 70 shutouts a year 100 years
A
after
hundred
John
years
Tyler
later.
was born. That was 130 years ago. So that's as political as we're going to get on the
Yeah.
show. Me
Yep.
just talking about an insane landslide back in 1936 because the number is so jarring, and Aram talking about the 10th president's grandson.
He was part of the Whig Party.
That's as much politics as we're going to talk here on the Just Baseball Show. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed it. Again, the best way to support is to rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts 5 stars, and leaving a written review is always very helpful. And of course, liking, subscribing on YouTube, and fill up the comment section. What do you think about our top 10 third basemen? What do you think about the top 5 pitchers in Major League Baseball in the year 2030? And what do you think about political talk brought to you by Just Baseball? All right. So for Aram Layton, of course, we'll be back on Friday. Do you know if we're doing corner outfield or are we starting to get into center field instead? Do you know
Ooh,
which
I
one we're
don't
doing over
know.
there?
We have to ask Master Jack, who puts together our schedules.
So we're either going to do center field on Friday or corner outfield. Of course, we still have our top. I think we're going to do top 20 starting pitchers. We're also going to have relievers as well, and then we're just going to continue down the line. So, of course, again, best way to support if you are interested in spending a little bit of dollars, getting yourself some Just Baseball merch. I'm rocking my hat, of course. The
Took the
sweatshirts
day off.
I still think are phenomenal. Go get
Uh,
yours in the
yeah.
merch store below. And that'll do it for Arm Laden. I'm Peter Apple again. We will see you on Friday. And with that, thank you, everybody.